All right, today we're going to talk about something I like to call a staircase for your brain. It's a really powerful way of thinking about learning called Bloom's Taxonomy, and it gets to the bottom of a feeling I'm pretty sure we've all had.
You know that feeling, right? You walk out of a training or a class or a meeting and you realize you can't actually do anything new. It's such a common problem, and the framework we're digging into today explains exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how you can actually fix it.
So the key idea here is to see learning not as just a single event, but as a journey up a staircase. Each step represents a deeper, more complex level of thinking. And here's the thing about a real staircase: you can't just leap to the top. You've got to climb it one step at a time.
And this staircase? Well, it actually has a name: Bloom's Taxonomy. It's been around for a while. It was first developed back in 1956 and then got a modern tune-up in 2001. It's basically a map for the different ways our brains work, from the simplest kind of thinking to the most complex. So here it is, the whole shebang. These are the 6 levels we're going to climb today. We start with just remembering things, and we're going to work our way all the way up to creating something totally new. This is our roadmap for the next few minutes. Okay, let's start our climb where you have to start, right at the bottom. This is the foundation. It's all about just getting the basic information into your head.
The very first step is simply to remember. This is pure recall. It's being able to recite your company's mission statement or list the ingredients for a recipe. You have the information, but you don't necessarily get the deeper meaning behind it. Not yet. A really easy way to spot this level of thinking is to look at the action words, the verbs. If you're being asked to define something, or list it, or repeat it, yep, you're operating right here on step 1.
The next step up is to understand. And honestly, this is a pretty huge leap. You're not just parroting back information anymore. Now you can actually explain an idea using your own words. So instead of just listing a software feature, you can describe how it actually helps a customer solve a problem.
And you can see the verbs here signal that deeper level of thinking. Words like classify, explain, and paraphrase. They show a real shift from just remembering something to actually comprehending it. You're starting to make that knowledge your own. All right, so with that foundation in place, we can move up into the middle of the staircase. I like to think of this as the workshop. This is where all that theoretical knowledge starts to get practical.
At this level, you apply what you know. This is exactly where the rubber meets the road. You take a concept, like a math formula, and you actually use it to solve a real-world problem. You're not just talking about it. This is the first real level of doing.
And the verbs here totally reflect that action-oriented stage. Demonstrate, operate, use. You're no longer just talking about the knowledge, you are putting it to work.
From applying, we climb up to analyzing. This is where you kind of become a detective. You start breaking down a complex system into its individual pieces so you can see how they all connect. Think about a mechanic troubleshooting an engine, trying to find the one part that's failing. You're exploring the how and the why of it all.
So the verbs here are all about that deconstruction. Differentiate, organize, experiment. You're not just using the tool anymore. You're taking it apart to figure out how it really ticks.
We are now getting close to the top, the summit. These final 2 levels are where true mastery happens. This is higher order thinking, where you go from just using knowledge to judging it, and eventually creating something brand new with it.
So at this level, you evaluate. And let's be clear, this is not about your personal opinion. This is about making a justified judgment that's based on clear standards and data. Think about conducting a formal peer review or choosing a new vendor by comparing their potential return on investment. You have to be able to defend your choice.
And the verbs themselves, they're powerful, right? Argue, defend, judge, support. At this point, you're not just having an opinion. You are taking a stand and backing it up with solid evidence.
And finally, we've made it to the summit. Create. This is the absolute pinnacle. You take everything you've learned on all the steps below, you synthesize it, and you build something entirely new, like designing an original marketing campaign from the ground up, or developing a new company policy.
The action words here say it all: design, construct, formulate. This is the point where you've officially shifted from being a consumer of information to a producer of it, and that is a huge deal.
So, we've climbed the whole staircase. Awesome. But why does any of this really matter? Let's bring it all the way back to that frustrating training session we talked about at the beginning.
This right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. So many trainings fail because of what we call mismatched learning.
The goal is for you to be able to repair a machine, which is an apply or analyze skill, right? But the training only asks you to list the parts, which is just a remember task. You see the massive gap between what's taught and what you actually need to do?
And the difference is it's stark. Low-level thinking is passive, it's surface level, it leads to short-term memory, the kind of stuff you cram for a multiple choice test and then forget. But high-level thinking, that's active, it's deep, it leads to long-term mastery, and you can only really test for it with real projects and simulations.
And as just a final little tidbit here, the framework itself has evolved. That 2001 revision made a really key change. It shifted the levels from being nouns to being active verbs. So knowledge became remember. And it also officially put creating at the very top, recognizing it as the ultimate act of mastery.
So, the next time you're learning something new or you're trying to teach someone else, I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you just memorizing facts down on the bottom steps, or are you pushing yourself to analyze, to evaluate, and to create up at the top? Because knowing which step you're on, well, that's the first step to actually reaching the summit.